G'day everyone. I just wanted to put together this quick video. Today I've been pretty disappointed by some media and articles that have been out there that I feel have taken things out of context, and also I just wanted to help you make up your own decisions. And what I've done at the end of this is actually attach the full unedited copy of the press conference I did yesterday with Senator Lambie at Parliament House, where I need to apologise for probably getting too drawn into answering some of the questions that have really taken us off the topic. And the whole reason why I founded Voice of a Veteran and chose to speak up after separating from the military myself start of last year and going down a spiral that saw me join in the mental health crisis that took me to my lowest point in August, where I considered taking my own life, and unfortunately over 700 veterans have now taken their own lives since 2001. And pretty outraged by the fact that I was able to get to that place and being able to look back and understand what got me there, to then stand up and create a platform that helped me stand up and speak out and help others connect with me, and with their blessing on their behalf try and take action and help people understand and be educated as to what the veteran community is going and what we need. In saying that, I'd also like to really thank you, those elements of the media who have been so supportive for us and understanding what's been going on. I mean, in particular, the Daily Telegraph launched their Save Our Heroes campaign, calling for a Royal Commission. And yesterday you would have heard me call for that Royal Commission. And again, at the end of this video, I've left that unedited full press conference for you to view. Daily Telegraph has also come out with our Save Our Medals campaign, and you would have heard me advocating so hard on this because, you know, as an Australian citizen, as a former Army man, and the way my morals and values sit, the best part of my military career was the ability to travel around the world to support those who couldn't support themselves, to save those who couldn't save themselves, and to take the fight to bullies or bad guys who would otherwise mean them or others harm. And when I sit here and I see collective punishment being awarded and people being subjugated to actions that I know tear at that fabric that we already suffer from in leaving defence, that loss of purpose, that loss of identity, it's sometimes small things like those honours and awards that really impact those who maybe have only that to identify with on days like Anzac Day, let alone the families of our fallen, which I know you've heard me speak about enough as it is. I need to say up front, you'll hear it again in the press conference after this, that, you know, I didn't see or hear any of the alleged offences in the Brereton report. I too have only read the unredacted report, and that's legally all I'm allowed to say. And I need to really bring this conversation back to what is my true purpose and not get carried away with trying to fight every battle. And I just want you to understand that I've probably been engaging with more than I should have, because so many of you have entrusted, so many veterans out there have entrusted your faith and confidence in me to stand up and try and stop some of these actions that are impacting you and helping you to suffer in silence, as you've told me and continue to tell me. But I need to abide by the principles of war and concentration of effort and maintaining my own morale, and really focus on getting back to that key purpose, that is to do what needs to be done to help combat the veteran mental health crisis. And the Brereton report release has brought so much of this to light in the way that I believe it's been mismanaged, and our veterans and their families have been treated, if only even being not considered by some of the actions. So again, at the end of this, I've attached the unredacted, unedited full copy of the press release that was conducted yesterday. I'd ask you to take the time to have a listen to my answers. Please provide me with feedback. You know, I'm here to learn, and I really hope to be in this long enough to support and achieve the change that is needed. The press conference yesterday, on a personal level, really did take a lot out of me. We can ask Senator Lambie and Glenn afterwards. I never really appreciated how much emotional energy that took, and my passion coming across was more so passion trying to defend, even for myself, a time in my career that was the very best. I lost Scott over there, and I saw Australia's finest, our soldiers, our commandos, and those who support us inside the wire perform to their absolute best in situations where daily they were putting their own lives on the line to achieve what needed to be done. So I need to get back to that message, to not get drawn into all these conversations, and I would ask for your support in doing so. And tonight I fly out to Western Australia to unfortunately attend my grandfather's funeral in Geraldton. And Papa was 90 years old. He was a section commander on the Hook in Korea. He was the RSM of 8RR in Vietnam, and I went and saw him just a few months ago, and he was part of the reason why I actually decided to speak out on Voice of a Veteran, because he, when he got back from Vietnam and a little after that, got out and moved to Geraldton, got himself a professional fishing boat, and went out and, in his own words, tried to lose himself for the next decade, days and weeks at a time going out fishing. And he told me of his struggles through DVA and those of his mates, and just how much I needed to stand up for what I could and do what I could. And he was such an inspiration behind what I'm doing. So I'm going to go quiet just for the next few days, because I need it personally. I need a bit of a mental health break. I really thank you all for your support. I'm sorry if I let anyone down yesterday, getting drawn into some of those conversations. I really want to get it back on track, because too many veterans are suffering in silence. I would ask those of you who can and know my personal character to please help me out in standing up and defending myself. So I look to help and just simply do the best I can, and to help keep this conversation on track. And again, thank you to all those media outlets that have. Thank you to everyone who's there in support, all those messages. I'm here with Copper, so we're all good to go. But again, please watch the full press conference after this. Please give me your feedback. Email hello@voiceofveteran.org, or find me. Everyone else seems to be able to find me on the internet. And please let me know. And if you feel I've gone off topic, please let me know. I'm not in this for the politics. I would love nothing less than to fix this system, to stop the Department of Defence creating the situation where our men and women are leaving Defence and have a suicide rate more than a third higher than that within the general public, and have, even worse, not be able to perform to their full potential, the same potential that I remember took me to my absolute greatness in my personal capabilities, representing, serving and defending this country. So yeah, again, at the end of this, please have a look, read through, watch the full press conference, provide me your feedback, help me get back on message. Thank you so much for your support. Please again take this time, because I am simply so fortunate and honoured to be able to pass on the messages of so many thousands of veterans who are contacting me. Reach out to a veteran whenever something new comes on the news or wherever it is and you see it. Our community is hurting. 11 veterans in the last month have taken their own lives, and we need a Royal Commission into this. You will hear me come back if there are any other questions once I return from Papa's funeral and some time with my family in Western Australia, and I will be back on doing what needs to be done in order to achieve that. I don't know what that is, but I know I will find a way, and with your support I'll continue to do so. So thank you so much. Good morning everyone, and thank you for turning up. I'm here today with Senator Lambie and with Glenn Colomitz. We have, as you may have read this morning, the Daily Telegraph, credible information that the Prime Minister, under the advisement of his senior leaders in both military and defence, have premeditated the collective punishment, and specifically in writing to the Queen back in July to enable the powers for the Chief of Defence Force to write to the Governor-General to remove the meritorious unit citation from an entire unit. Prior to this, the original letters patent signed by Prime Minister Hawke back in 1991 only allowed for the citation to be removed from an individual. These powers demonstrate the premeditated collective punishment of our veterans and of our families without the concurrent planning and dedication to the support architecture around them that they need as they have been exposed in the public to wounds reopening, having this citation threatened to be stripped from their family. And while we assume the presumption of innocence, we'll be working with Senator Lambie to now go forth and help turn this credible information into fact so as the Australian people can see what has occurred. Too much is occurring behind closed doors. The veteran community is in outrage. Decisions are being made unchecked by our government, and it's time to bring this forward so the Australian people can understand what is going on and our veterans can stop suffering in silence.
Thank you, Senator. These regulations were changed in the last bill and changed in July this year, taking the ability to remove the citation from a very narrow area, so to the ability to remove it from one individual, to give the government three options, give the CDF and the Minister three options. Sweeping changes to these regulations, which took effect in July this year, some 4 months before the findings of the Brereton inquiry were handed down. These sweeping powers and these three options afforded CDF and Minda and the Minister now allow for collective cancellation of the citation for everybody, which appears to be the path the CDF and indeed the government wish to pursue. The other options, and which we would say are certainly more equitable, include the ability to individually cancel the citation, or the ability to have a member forfeit the citation on conviction for a serious offence. Now, these decisions affect the rights of individuals to wear this citation. Fundamental principles of procedural fairness must be afforded in this process, and stripping or attempting to strip an entire unit of this citation is against all of these fundamental principles.
Yeah, look, for me, I just find this so un-Australian. You're already saying these guys are guilty, that you're investigating, but what's even more concerning to me, you're saying that the whole 3,000 of them are guilty. You just cannot do this. And the way this has been done in July of changing the rules and regulations around this citation is absolutely one of the lowest points that I have yet seen. I'd remind people out there that there are a lot of families attached to these men, and these men, majority of them are already suffering psychological conditions because of the continuous rotations they have done in the Middle East during their time. This is not the way to handle this. This is very bullyish of the CDF, the Minister of Defence and the Prime Minister. And quite frankly, if you gave us stuff about veteran suicide, you'd back it off. You'd back it off. Nobody has been proven guilty yet. And quite frankly, you're about 10 steps ahead. And you don't even know where this is going to end up. This could take years. So to cut in early like this, quite frankly, has been a really, really bad decision on behalf of all of you. And you should be ashamed of yourselves. So I'm asking you to put the welfare of these soldiers and their families first and foremost, just for once. But back it off. This is not the right way forward. Back it off. Don't just put it on hold until January about taking this citation off them. Back it off. Back it off until we know who's proven guilty. And that's if anyone is proven guilty. Just back it off.
Mr Russell, Jackie Lambie says that it's un-Australian and it's the lowest of the low. Isn't the lowest of the low the most un-Australian act the fact that we had special forces soldiers in Australians' name murdering at least 39 innocents?
The lowest of the low is that you continue to stand here and accuse them of crimes that they're about to stand in an investigation and must stand in court. No one, including the Prime Minister, is judge, jury and advocate and should be allowed to change the powers that can then punish collectively or individually any Australians. So here today we are saying that the allegations are confronting, are shocking and if proven are un-Australian. But what is un-Australian is not affording the due process, standing up an entire office of the Special Investigator, changing rules behind closed doors. We want it brought to the forefront, we want due process afforded, and want the Australian public to know what is going on.
Murders mentioned about 184 times in the Brereton report. report. It's obviously not done lightly, a report of some 4.5 years. Do you think that these offences, any of them, are true?
I think that these offences have to go to be proven true or otherwise by qualified legal people through the Office of the Special Investigator. I call on the government here and now to help the Australian public and the military to move forward from this investigation that was 7 years ago, allow those who have to answer for any alleged crimes to do so, but now to support our veterans, our families, and now having shown that they've spent over the last 6 months premeditating actions without supporting them. It's unexcusable. They have lost my trust, and they have lost the trust of so many veterans and their families.
Those accused of the 39 alleged murders of Afghan civilians and prisoners of war, shouldn't those soldiers have lost your trust too?
When they are proven to have done so, they will have lost my trust. Again, why are we making decisions here and now on credible information and not allowing due process? Can we please have these conversations when we actually have facts proven through the legal process and not opinions? I was there on the ground. I do not see these things. If any of you here were on the ground and saw them, please feel free to speak up. Otherwise, let's allow the process to do what it's been designed to do under our democratic system.
But isn't it the case contained in the Brereton report then?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Do you believe what is contained in the Brereton report and what the Chief of Defence outlined about 3 weeks ago?
I believe that these allegations are shocking and have to be now passed on to criminal investigation.
But isn't it the case that the whole unit doesn't go on trial, individuals go on trial? The Brereton report was looking at the behaviour of the whole unit, and that's what it's judged in the Brereton report. That doesn't need to go to a trial. That's judged by defence, isn't it?
So the Brereton report is judging the behaviour of a unit 7 years ago, as at the last report. Right here and now, the unit, including 2 squadron and 3,000 Special Forces personnel, are being judged on actions and opinions of culture from 7 years ago. How do you do that? I don't know. A report has gone on for 4.5 years. I'm looking forward to that report being pushed forward to the Office of the Special Investigator. I was there as a part of that culture. I saw warrior culture that saved lives. I also saw situations that were beyond any comprehension. I can't make the decisions for everyone who was there. I can just talk to my own lived experience. And as an Australian, stand here, ask for due process to be afforded.
On the disbandment of 2 Squadron, there's reports of, I think you're saying that there's 60 to 65 operators and reserve operators and SASR who are threatening to stand down over this. Mm-hmm. That's not something that can be tolerated by defence, is it? I mean, part of the Brereton report was the fact that junior officers were basically running the whole show, and now you've got a whole lot of soldiers bucking the orders of the CDF. Do you think that defence is going to stand for this?
So what you're seeing is soldiers and officers who have lost the trust of their senior commanders. We are talking about soldiers and officers who served in the unit during the 6-year period, during the Special Operations Task Group. 2 Squadron has been around since the 1960s. I'm getting calls from Vietnam veterans, Borneo veterans, Confrontasi and Iraq veterans. They are in outrage. 60% of the current unit never even deployed to Afghanistan, and they're all being collectively punished. They are being outraged by the values that are being demonstrated in collective punishment, in people being punished who weren't there, in people who served, fought under that insignia, to have it removed and stripped from an already volatile mental health crisis situation that we are currently in. They are putting in their discharge because they have lost trust that the government will have their back if they ask them to go overseas again and risk their lives.
What about the trust of Australians in these 60 to 65 SASR people? I mean, how can we trust them to follow orders now?
Well, all that I know, with over the 70,000 Australians who joined our petition for this citation alone, and the 100,000 more who are contacting and emailing us, that they have the trust of the Australian people, and the Australians have the trust of our government to allow them to be afforded the due process and to be proven guilty. They are innocent until proven guilty.
Have you spoken to any of the accused? If so, and Jackie as well, what's their mental health like at the moment? What are they telling you? And also, you said that those soldiers have lost the trust in the leadership. What does that mean for the Chief of the Defence Force, and is his position tenable right now?
I'll answer the second half, then I'll pass over to Senator Lambie. So I have lost trust in the Chief of Defence Force and the Chief of Army. behind closed doors and being informed by the defence public, I am hearing what is going on. I am hearing of soldiers receiving disciplinary and administrative action for commenting and liking Facebook posts expressing their opinion. Directives being pushed down through the Defence Force, preventing any defence person from speaking out. Actions being taken against associations who are stepping up to support their members, who are suffering the mental health scars of some of these decisions being made, and a lack of care being afforded to any past serving veterans and their families through decisions that have now been premeditated. I have lost their faith. Many other veterans have. They would be here speaking up if they could, but they cannot. That's where we're at.
Heston, what was your own experience with the Brereton inquiry? How many times did you speak to the Justice, and what did you tell him?
I would like to state publicly here that I'm not one of the accused. Over the last week, I've received some attacks in the media claiming that I was potentially one of the accused people and are stepping up here in order to cover myself. I'm not. And I deployed over there and I lost soldiers over there and I saw exactly what the war was like over there. Sorry, can you ask the question again?
How many times did you speak to Justice Brereton?
I was called before Justice Brereton twice. The day before I discharged from the military and then 4 months after I discharged.
So you weren't one of the 19, but did you receive a pat?
No, I did not. So there were over 400 people called before to provide evidence and I was one of those people.
Were any adverse findings made against you, to your knowledge?
I have not received any form of PAP or any form of follow-on. No, I have not been required to answer any subsequent questions.
What was the incident that you were being investigated or asked about?
Well, it wasn't the incident that the ABC reported a Marine hurting a pop. I was being asked to go through every single one of the 67 missions that my platoon flew in the 5 months that we were in Afghanistan.
Were there particular incidents you were interviewed over?
There were, but if I tell you what they are, I stand to be tried in contempt of the directives I've been provided and the gag order I've been provided, but be able to represent myself.
From your experience, do you think Justice Brereton did a fair job? Was he thorough?
I think Justice Brereton did the best with what he have. I think, unfortunately, the mess the Australian public is seeing here and now is what has occurred when our government leadership and the military leadership have tried to use this report to help summarise over a decade worth of deployments in Afghanistan. These topics of culture, these topics of were we employed in the right way, these topics of how people were rotated over there too many times, the insurgents we faced, the leadership issues we had over there are all coming to the forefront. And unfortunately, it's being done in such a messy way. But all I want to do is help segment out these conversations. Those who stand accused and now have to be afforded the presumption of innocence before they are tried in the legal process need to be afforded to do so. In the meantime, there are 3,000 veterans and their families, including the families of 20 fallen, who are having to relive their deployments, relive the loss of their loved ones, relive those heat of the moment battle situations that has led us to a current crisis in the mental health of our veteran community where the last month, 11 veterans have committed suicide. Since 2001, over 700 veterans have committed suicide. When we deployed to Afghanistan, we were measured on our performance over there of how many enemy we killed. And back in Australia, the Australian public measured our success by how many were sent back to be buried. 41. The Parliament here stood for a minute's silence when each of those 41 members died. Since 2001, 700 veterans have committed suicide since we deployed to Afghanistan. That's over 12 hours. When Parliament sits today, how about every single parliamentarian and senator stands up and acknowledges the fallen that are still the death toll that we are now facing as a result of our deployments to Afghanistan? That have spiked since the Brereton report has gone live a month ago, that I am receiving phone calls even this morning from the families of those who fell in battle and again are suffering at hearing that potentially there is credible information that our government made these decisions to make changes to this legislation over 5 months ago and still didn't afford them a phone call before they stepped up in front of the media to say they're going to take the award away from their dead loved one.
You said heat of battle before. I think with the 39 alleged murders, every single one of them are not in heat of battle or fog of war scenario.
Yeah. So what's your name?
Andrew.
Andrew, what is the heat of battle?
Well, I'm quoting the report, and I'm also, and this is also something that's been made clear by the CDF and the minister.
Yep.
Right. Once again, what is the heat of the battle?
What is the heat of battle?
What is the heat of the battle?
So when I went out on operations, we went on operations to catch an insurgent.
If you ask me a question, one of the alleged murders is captured on film with someone carrying in a field and is shot at pretty much point blank. That doesn't look like heat of battle. Exactly.
So I can answer this one.
Okay,
yep.
Yeah.
So
Very interesting to note, and when I look forward to the Office of the Special Investigator come forward, the members of the Special Air Service Regiment were required to go out and prosecute targets on the JPL list, which you've all heard about. The Americans and the British would drop bombs on these people. We would not afford the collateral damage, so we sent our soldiers out there to prosecute, capture and kill them, and under legal authority could have done so in any circumstances. That situation in particular is indeed an allegation that I'm going to afford the presumption of innocence as opposed to the snapshot context that's been put forward to the media and has to now be investigated and is one of those being investigated. I was not there. It is not right for me to comment. Unless you were there and understand the heat of battle, I'm not going to dive into opinions.
So you say that the rules of engagement are such that you could pretty much go out and kill anyone that you came across?
No. So the rules of engagement were if someone were classified on the JPL list as being a known terrorist insurgent, we had the authority from back in the headquarters to drop a bomb on them or send a team out to kill or capture them.
But the report makes clear this is about civilians. We're talking about farmers, talking about young children in some cases. These weren't made very clear in the report.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that has to now go through to the Office of the Special Investigator. I wasn't there. I can't comment on any of those individually. All I can comment on is the process now is to carry that forward.
But surely this evidence was compiled to a legal standard by corroborated accounts. Some of the accounts were rejected by the report. I mean, it seems very clear that these incidents have at least a high standard of evidence behind them.
So these incidents have credible information that's now been put forward to have tested under due process in a legal situation. Yeah.
So you said a moment ago that you thought that Justice Brereton did a fair job with what he could.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you're questioning one of the fundamental issues here, which is, I think, the fog of war reference that Andrew's using. I think that is from Brereton, isn't it? So do you dispute the way in which Justice Brereton is classifying what's in the fog of war and the incidents that he says were not in the fog of war?
I am speaking to the fact that the Australian public haven't been given the chance to understand what the fog of war is. The fog of war is not assaulting up over an enemy trench and the enemy putting their hands up and the decision there to either capture them or take them hostage. The fog of war is when you're going out on a mission to catch the same insurgent that you'd already caught 3 times and had a fingerprint on a ball bearing that was pulled from a suicide IED vest that was detonated in Kabul the week before.
Is that a hypothetical you're coming up with there? Or is that
That's an actual mission that I did in 2012. So I don't know what the fog of war is. All I know is that there has been a 4.5-year inquiry that has been conducted. And what we need to do now is not sit here and debate fog of war. We need to sit here and allow those who are accused to be afforded the presumption of innocence and to go forward to an official process.
Do you question the credibility of some of the statements given by witnesses?
I mean, there's so much more that we still have to work through. Like, I'm one man working with Voice of a Veteran, an incredible team, and now that's why I'm here at Parliament House with people like Cinda Lambie, that we need to dig into turning the credible information that we've heard from those who are involved in the inquiry, from those who are currently serving, and afford the government for the presumption of innocence until we can come forward with hard evidence. And there are so many questions such as immunity being provided, people that were not medically sound being interviewed. But again, I want to leave it at that.
Who is funding your campaign?
I'm funding my campaign personally.
It must be expensive business though, going around almost full time now.
It absolutely is. Would you like to support?
Have you had any financial support for your campaign?
Not as yet. I think this morning we're going to be doing a fundraising campaign to help Voice of a Veteran push forward the rest of this campaign, because up until this point I've been personally self-funding.
Jackie, can I
just answer that? This is how it works with veterans. Once you've got their trust, you don't need to be running around everywhere. I'll be doing that over Christmas anyway, no doubt, because there's some that want to see me in person, but this is how it works. They'll send you those documents, they'll come forward, and they'll request to see you. That's how it works. That's how it's done. Okay, I've spent 8 years to build that trust up, whether it's under Veterans Affairs or whether it's those that are serving. That's where we're at.
So just on the changes to the National Commissioner for Veterans, what's your views on that so far?
The changes that I was already told at estimates, both from the Minister of Defence and from Liz Cozzens, that those things already existed in with the interim commissioner and with those terms of reference. What is this crap today? What is this absolute crap today? I'm telling you once again, veterans are already hurting out there and still you are slapping them across the face. Why is it that these guys are prepared to put their lives on their line, but we're not good enough to have a Royal Commission in this country? You can go and run one on John Setka and the CFMEU. You can go and do some, and with all due respect to those people who lost their lives in pink bats, you're looking at 700 lives here, guys. 700. We've had over 100 Royal Commissions in this country. Why can't veterans get to the bottom of this and have a Royal Commission? The other thing is with this Royal Commission, what you're seeing come out of the command and control or lack of, right across the board, and I'm not just talking about in Western Australia, I'm talking about the Royal Australian Regiments, the boys in there now coming forward to me. There's stuff going on in the RAF that's going to come out after Christmas. We've got some real problem with our leadership in the military. This is part of the reason those suicides are happening, not just under those under Veterans Affairs. We're now getting those that are now overtaking those who are serving day to day in uniform. That's where we're at today.
On 2 Squadron, what's your position on that? Do you support the disbandment?
No, I don't support anything until anyone has been proven guilty. Like I said, this has been an investigation. Okay, we need to get to the bottom of it. This is not going to finish tomorrow. This is going to take years and years and years. And I can tell you now, if you've got any of those men standing that have been accused in 9 or 10 years, I'm not even sure how we're ever going to get to the bottom of this, because quite frankly, these are the most respected men in our forces. We know that as service members.
I mean, if you've got Defence Command, the CDF, a massive investigation, stripping them of their very existence on the defence map, there's something has gone fundamentally wrong. Do you not at least concede that?
What I won't concede is that nobody has been proven guilty yet. And what I won't concede is you won't take 3,000 men down with them. I will not concede that. I just won't concede that.
A unit service can be considered to be meritorious if it's marred by one or more war crimes.
Yeah, please do.
So can we please highlight that while the meritorious unit citation was awarded to Task Force 66, there were 17 individual Special Operations Task Group rotations during that time. So let alone going on a case-by-case as to the individual rotations. So a rotation is an entire unit. So 17 different commanding officers, 17 different SAS elements, 17 different commando elements, 17 different engineer elements. Some of those years weren't even listed within the Brereton report. So this is where we're just asking for why is decisions being made, first and foremost, before anyone's been proven guilty.
Heston, you've significantly pushed your position through Voices of a Veteran since this Brereton report. Are these issues difficult for you to talk about, particularly the fight?
This whole situation has been very personal because from the first allegations from the ABC about this Marine that heard a pop that came out on the 21st of October, which was the 8th anniversary of the death of Corporal Smith, through to what is going on now, being outreached by veterans from Vietnam who were in 2 Squadron right back in the day to when my grandfather, who just died last week as a Vietnam veteran, knew and have been petitioning and lobbying on his behalf as well.
Can I ask you about this? I was talking about
Yep. So I actually came out quite firmly in support of the National Commissioner for Suicide, investigating veteran suicide and suicide prevention just the other month. And that was prior to travelling to the Department of Veterans Affairs, where I met with the Secretary, Liz Cosden, and her team, and put together a plan to support with a bunch of veteran volunteers those who are going to be affected by the Brereton report release. That support was denied. That never happened, and we've seen the result from this. And all the actions I have since been working with and supported by the veterans to uncover what's actually been going on over the last 6 months to actively target veterans and their families in the collateral damage, to fail to recognise and understand the impacts this is having on the mental health and support of our veterans, has me standing here today adamantly protesting that I do not support this National Commissioner. Nothing short of a Royal Commission is good enough, because I have lost trust that our government can mark their own homework, and I'm going to call on every Australian to please join with me in lobbying their elected officials, their representatives, their senators. The Prime Minister today could stand up and ask for a Royal Commission. 4 people died tragically in the pink bats situation. 11 veterans died last month, 700 since 2001. You will send us overseas to fight your battles, and we do willingly and would volunteer tomorrow to do so. Prime Minister, please stand up and support us when we need it now.
Are you meeting any, on something that you were saying?
Are you meeting any ministers or MPs
I plan to go and speak to every single member of parliament that I need to gather enough support to ask the Prime Minister to call for a Royal Commission.
Jackie, just on what you were saying before, sorry, I got distracted by Bob talking in. Are you saying that those accused will commit suicide?
What I'm saying is I'm terribly worried about the welfare of not only those accused but also the witnesses that have come forward that may have made statements against their mates. This is pretty messy right now. They've got their own families. I have quite a few of those wives speaking to me through those men. That's been going on now for about 3 months, and I am terribly worried about their welfare, as we should all be. Like I said, if anybody... You know what? We're not denying that any of this happened. We're not certainly doing that. But they need to go through the right legal process. And if that's going to take years and years, and these guys they love their country probably more than any of us, and what they're prepared to give to it, know that when they're at that high level, when you're in those sort of units that are asked to do the bloody impossible for this country, and they continue to do it tour after tour after tour, then I am very concerned about their welfare, and I don't think right now the Prime Minister, the CDF, or those high-ranking people up there are taking this into account. You've completely missed the step.
So, just to confirm, have you been talking to some of the people who have been accused, and if so, what are they saying to you?
What I've been talking to is the wives, and whatever I'm hearing right now, until I collect more evidence and pass it into the proper authorities, I certainly won't be saying this over news.
Jackie, you're obviously quite, emotional, if I could use that word here. Your vote is often a crucial swing vote in the Senate vote. Would this stance on a Royal Commission might affect your vote in the future on important legislation that the government is trying to get you to support?
Do you know what? I would never, ever do that to anybody serving, and they would never, ever want me to do that, not ever. They just want what they deserve, which is a Royal Commission, and I certainly won't undersell them. I'd undersell myself for them, but that's not what they want me to do. They want this fair and square because they deserve it. And it's not because we want it, it's because we bloody well need it. We need it. They're going down like flies. And it's only going to get worse, I can assure you.
Heston, can I ask, in your time either in country or back here, had you ever heard any of these rumours that were alleged in the report? Was it sort of common knowledge, either in the Special Forces, the Commandos, or the SAS, that this sort of alleged behaviour was going on?
Any and all of the rumours from throwdowns through to blooding, questions I've answered before, and no, I have not heard of any of these. To be honest, a lot of the first time I heard about some of these was when I was required to give evidence in my dealings with the inquiry team.
So is it possible it was sort of confined behaviour to a small clique, as reported? It wasn't common knowledge either amongst command or the broader unit?
Yeah, well, I believe that's what's really been brought out here. And the key point that's being lost is differentiation. Like, I was a captain over there. I was a tactical commander on the ground in my platoon, and I 100% knew what was going on in and around my platoon. And I worked in and around the other Special Forces elements, but it was my platoon and my guys flying in and out on mission. And we always hear competitiveness and rumours and whatnot, never to this level, but, that's what we need to do, is let rumours lie, and we've now had an inquiry into these, and we now have that pass forward to be turned into evidence. So, I want to speak so much to the brilliance that was done over there, and that's the saddest part for me, is that so many amazing missions were conducted to take the fight to those who were bullying and targeting and killing and injuring others. And some of Australia's absolute finest performed absolutely magnificently, of the over 3,000 people that deployed. And it's so sad for people like myself, who that was the highlight of my career, commanding men in action, taking the fight to bullies who would like to take the fight to us and our families. And now, unfortunately, the Australian public is remembering and looking through my soldiers and myself through the lens of suspicion. Did they do something? What are they trying to hide, as opposed to...
Do you believe the war lost its way? Yeah, we went there in 2001 in response to 9/11 to get Al-Qaeda. What was the end game, you think?
Please take that question to our
You must be as a soldier. Did you ever question that?
No, look, we knew what we were doing over there, particularly as a Special Forces element. There were many more things going on in Afghanistan as far as international terrorists coming in and out, and the people we were prosecuting, targeting, tracking and tracing. We did actions every day
that inevitably saved lives, protected lives, and made the world a better place. And we did so as volunteers and would do so again.
Did you see the rivalry between Commandos and SAS that Brereton and others have commented on?
Absolutely, yep.
And how did that what was your experience about?
Yeah, so the rivalry between the units was competitive to a point of toxicity, and that came from the simple fact that the senior leaders, the generals, the Special Operations Commander, did not effectively allocate responsibilities between the units. The roles we did over there were likely able to be achieved by both elements, and as such, the competitiveness for resources such as unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, helicopters, forced competition between the two. And in hindsight, and like I will have to say, the Defence Force has recognised since 2013 and since 2015 with sweeping reforms to unit structures, capability requirements and accountability of those have been addressed. But at that time, it definitely was. That was in the Brereton report. 2020, Special Operations Command from today is such a very different place.
Do you think, though, from reading what Brereton found and talked about the culture of SAS, particularly the NCO levels, the warrior culture that you talked about, and your experience in Commandos, and this is something that people like James has said, is you're structured very differently. When you go into missions, you go in a much bigger group. It's a lot harder to hide stuff from other members, whereas when you've got 4 or 5 blokes in a patrol, it's a lot easier to keep that culture of silence and fear, it seems, for the younger ones. You accept that happened there, and that is perhaps one of these war crimes may well have happened.
So that's a question for Andrew Hasty, who was an SAS troop commander. I was a commando platoon commander. I never went on the ground with a SAS patrol and can't comment.
Bob, you've arrived here mid-press conference. We asked your reaction to the stories, I guess, around the citations and also around the special suicide.
My great-great-uncle died at Gallipoli. My great-uncle died soon after release from Shanghai prison. My father volunteered Second World War, and I volunteered for what turned out to be Indonesia. And I was wearing a uniform for 8 years on and off, but we're on a war footing. We're on a 24-hour call-up to go over. We're not like normal militia now. So I identify very strongly with these people, very, very strongly indeed. And I cannot begin to tell you my suppressed rage and feelings about this. You're asked by your country to go over and do a job, right? And look, I never thought about the rights and wrongs of the Indonesian thing. My government said I had to go, and even though I'm from a political family, your government says you have to go, you have to go. It's not a matter of flag-waving patriotism or anything of that nature. It's just that, if your government says you have to go, right or wrong, you have to go. Now, when those men go there and risk their lives to be subject to what they are being subject to here is unbelievable for me. I could not get to a camera fast enough to call for the sacking. I said, no, I don't want him to resign. I want him sacked. He said he wanted women in the front line because he wanted to increase the intelligence level of his troops. In other words, he's calling his own soldiers dumb, right? He then said they're not allowed to use the word kill. Well, as a weapons instructor for 8 years of my life, as a weapons instructor, you tell a soldier not to use the word kill. I mean, this is rather fascinating. But I can tell you one thing, that bloke's not a warrior. He's not a warrior. And we want warriors defending this country. Let there be no doubt about that. And if you haven't got warriors defending this country, you've got no defence of your country. Now, I just could not believe what I was seeing. I flashed as soon as I heard this gentleman, and if ever you want the essence of Australia, you got it there. And if you think that the people are behind the government in this, you are badly mistaken. The people are behind him. And I would say 90% of the people of Australia are behind him. And they will get more aggressively behind him as this goes on, if it continues. But to cast dispersions of a general nature, he said the citation should be removed, or hinted that it should be. He's denigrating the entire service. And he just lumps them all together. Now, any of us that have played serious rugby league, as I have, or any of us that have been in the army on a 24-hour call-up to go into combat, if you're the boss, I was a platoon commander, if you're the boss, then anything that goes wrong in that platoon is my fault. If I'm the captain of the football team, as I was on occasions, if it goes wrong, it's my fault, not their fault. right? And a commander that blames his troops. He is not a commander's bootlace, and he should be removed. Now, I don't want him to resign. I want him sacked. And if the government doesn't sack him, then let them ride the tiger of the anger of the Australian people. Those 1 million and 2 million people that turn out on Anzac Day, what do you think they think? They think this bloke is what Australia should be about. That's what they think.
What would they think of the war crimes in Afghanistan?
Look, you know, war is a war crime by definition. I had uncles that served at Millen Bay, right? And I will never ever tell the stories of those things that occurred. I mean, this is warfare. You don't judge warfare by your normal standards. Now, that does not mean that there are not some outrageous things that need to be addressed. But to blanket everyone under the doings, if there was any doings, of one or two people, it's just, I cannot believe it. And God bless Jackie Lambie and our great hero over here. Never seen such courage in a public arena before. And I'm sure exemplified such courage in the field as well.
Thanks everyone. Very on.
Jackie, psychologically, I imagine to deal Timmy pulled out the picture of his platoon and named 7 officers, 5 that had died in certain minutes. And he said, I've been 5 and 6. There's no. And you said, there's the picture. I give you that picture. Just
Das kunne være en.